Well, this is interesting. I just hit the record button because I am up on the top of where Lang Avenue meets Ashcroft Road, which is several hundred yards away from the apartments. And I hit the record button because when I opened the Wi-Fi system settings, what I saw was a network by the name of 10-2. And that's significant because 10-2 it goes right back to the very beginning of my targeting, when I first discovered that there was something going on, because I was helping out the neighbor, the neighbor that was absolutely involved in, complicit in assisting these gang stalkers, whether she was a gang stalker or not. I don't consider her necessarily an active participant, just a victim of their manipulation. So the person who was the owner of 10-2 was my downstairs neighbor, Lynn Murphy. Instead of getting my own $9.95 a month internet, I decided to pay more to help the neighbor with her bill, because she was paying like a couple $100 for the whole package, and she had the higher speed internet, and she always, she would always mention how expensive it is, and she has a set budget. So I said, well, instead of getting my own, I'll just help you out. I'll give you $20 a month for your, for access to your internet, because if you're paying for the high speed, you have a lot of, you have the ability to handle me and my kids' devices and your devices without a problem. And you'll get an extra $20, to go towards your bill. So everybody benefits. The name of her network was 10-2. Okay. So I think that's pretty funny that I got 10-2 was the network that popped up where Ashcroft Road meets Lang Avenue. And I'll show you on a map. So if you look at this map, you can see over here where the terrace apartments are. And then you can see over here where Ashcroft Road meets Lang Avenue. Now, in reality, it's way out of the range of Wi-Fi capability. Regular, Wi-Fi capability is like 200 feet. With an extender, you can maybe double that but that's if you have a big property. If you have a little apartment at the terrace apartments, you can't really extend much further than the 200 feet range. And I'm pretty sure they dial down the signal strength in those apartments because there's so many networks packed close together. So they, you go on one building, go to the next building, and all of a sudden all the networks are different, and you're not getting your network fucking 50 feet away. Hell, if I went to the other side of my apartment, my signal strength would cut in half just inside my apartment. But that's whenever I got my own internet, because there was a certain iOS update that iOS introduced enhanced privacy settings, okay? And in these enhanced privacy settings, they included the security feature that would identify your protocol, like your security protocol on your router. And they didn't consider TP kit or whatever it is, I don't know. They didn't consider WPA secure. It had to be WPA2 AES. WPA2, not the TKPIT or whatever the fuck it's called. And it would come right up and it would say privacy warning if you were on a network that was, outdated, one of the older protocols, because anybody who on the network had the ability to see your actual MAC address, okay, for your device, the real MAC address, and you couldn't hide it, So with the introduction of WPA2 or with the introduction of iOS, I think it was 13, when they came out with iOS 13, 12 or 13, it was a while back, and the updated security settings for the Wi-Fi, it would just say privacy warning right on it. And if you were up to date, it would spoof, it would hide your MAC address. It would produce a fake MAC address, to hide your real MAC address so that your device was private, Most people don't even understand what it means. They don't care. But I just saw something different. All these years I had an iPhone, and then all of a sudden it said privacy warning. I didn't know what it meant. So before I looked it up, I started looking into all the settings on my device, right? And I uncovered quite a few things that shouldn't have been the case, okay? First of all, it shouldn't have been a privacy warning. It should have been on the updated secure protocol, especially with Xfinity, unless somebody actually got into the router and they manually reduced the protocol, right, the security protocol, to make it easier for devices to communicate and everything. It's not something that would have automatically happened. And she actually had even more advanced device from Xfinity than I did. I had the regular X1 gateway, whatever it was, the older gateways. She had the updated X5 one, whatever it was. It was the bigger box, the one. Whenever they switched from the black ones to the white ones, and you had a big white box. And then she played dumb when I asked her what her setup was. She said something. She had some, I think she said FiOS or something, or I don't know. She would never reveal to me what it was, but I didn't care what it was. I just wanted to alert her to the privacy warning. And I didn't understand what it meant, but I just told her that I didn't trust it. And I found evidence that somebody was in my device, so she better take a look at her accounts and her device and secure all her accounts. I was giving her a heads up, because if they were in my device, they were absolutely had the ability to be in hers, because I was sharing her network. I was paying her, and at this point, not just $20 a month, because that's what I started paying her. I volunteered to up it and give her $30 a month instead of $20, because I'm a fucking nice guy, right? The whole time knowing that I could have my own internet for $9.95 a month, because I have compassion. And she would, she would express how she, has a hard time affording everything with the high price of it and everything. So I thought, well, I'll help you out. We use the internet quite a bit. I appreciate it. Here's an extra $10. Like I said, I could have had my own. But when the privacy warning thing came up, I got off her 10.2 network. Got completely off of it. And I started paying attention to all the networks. And for some reason, the network that said Jimmy Grabowski, okay, was always full strength, no matter what. In my own apartment, I couldn't even get a full strength signal on my own router if I went to the other side of the apartment. But I could go as far away from Jimmy Grabowski's apartment as possible, and his network would still come in full blast. Like, to the point where my network didn't even connect because it was out of range. Jimmy Grabowski's would still connect. So whatever they were doing, I believe they were doing the whole mesh network thing. I just didn't have the ability to detect the hidden networks back then. But I noticed there was somehow they were able to automatically detect any networks and automatically fabricate the spoof that would mirror those networks and create fake networks in a mesh network, and it would be an automatic rotating thing, so that it automatically would just pick up any network and spoof it, And I would be able to catch glimpses of the normal network at different times, like whenever I would reset my router, if the power would go out briefly, if I would go just far enough away from my wireless device or whatever device they had placed, then all of a sudden I would get normal search query results, and I would get messages and notifications from messages and stuff that from hours before that I never got for some reason, even though I had full network signal. And everybody in those apartments had Xfinity. There was hotspots all over the place, but I could never connect to the Xfinity hotspot. It would not let me. It would not allow me to. Okay? And at the time, like I said, I didn't know how everything worked. I was learning. So I did my research. I self-taught myself about networking and the protocols and how it's supposed to be, the norm, right? And since I just try to keep mine as basic and default as possible, because I knew that most people would do the same, and then I would just take notice of the anomalies, right? And like I said, there was absolutely always an anomaly with my devices. It's, I'm sure I could get to the bottom of it and figure out exactly what they're doing and how they're doing it, but I learned enough to understand basically what's going on. That's really all I need. I'm not going to waste much more time on it, because I understand that the people doing it are going to take the steps to ensure that they are not, able to be traced back to any one particular person. They're not that stupid. If they watch everything I do, they would have been aware of me investigating it, and they had no problem with it. They didn't try to, shut anything off or cover their tracks or anything. But they did use a lot of different people that would come and go, and I believe that they were basically the vessels. These people were coming and going with a device, mobile device, and it stayed mobile, so it was never stationary. You keep the target moving, it's hard to catch a moving target. And I would find different things in my apartment building, right? Whenever you're sitting there looking at the networks and all of a sudden Sheets Guest pops up, you know what I mean? When somebody pulls in, then Sheets Guest will pop up. Well, what do you think that tells you? That tells you that whoever just pulled in has a device that is spoofing the Sheets Guest network, which means there's a very good chance that they are involved in, accessing other people's devices. They spoof the Sheets network, the Sheets Wi-Fi hotspot, the guest network, so that somebody who goes to Sheets to get on Wi-Fi, whenever they're at the apartments and they have that network saved in their phone, all they have to do is flood the signal of their actual router so that it, deauth attack or whatever, deauthorization attack, it would kick their device off the regular network, and it would connect to whichever network had this, the strongest signal that was saved in the network preferences, which would be a Sheets Guest, right? So it would automatically connect to this person's mobile spoofed Sheets Guest network. And if they're not looking at it, they wouldn't even know, But after discovering this, I paid close attention. And at different times, I caught my device would randomly jump onto some of my neighbors' networks that I had never connected to before. I didn't even know the password. How the hell could I connect to it? So they were going even further with my device. You know what I mean? Because I was actively trying to keep my device, secure. So I would change shit around. So they had to keep changing shit around. But I never, was never able to determine who. I mean, I can speculate, and I'm probably right about who was doing it. Jimmy Grabowski. But they would make it appear as though certain neighbors are doing it. So I would try to, send me on a wild goose chase. But all they were doing is spoofing the neighbor's network, causing my device to connect to the spoofed neighbor's network so that I would think that that neighbor was doing it. You know what I mean? So it's like I said, it wasn't hard to see all these things. So it's funny that 10-2 would pop up all the way up there on the hill, pretty far away from the apartments. And I actually asked the right questions one day and went down when I had Lynn and Dorothy, and I believe she was absolutely involved as well. I caught them in a lie because I discovered another 10-2. Like when one of these little times whenever I would get a glimpse of the real networks, I discovered another 10-2 that was spelled differently or something. But that was only just glimpses. I could never connect to it. But I asked Lynn in front of Dottie one time about the networks, and I mentioned the other network, playing dumb, and then Dottie opened her big fat mouth and said, "Well, which network are you on?" And I said, "Which network? I thought there was only one network. I didn't know there was, more than one network. What do you mean, which network?" And then you could tell she was caught. She looked at Lynn. She didn't know what to say. They started getting all fucking flustered. And they started just kind of saying whatever they could to try to change the subject. And then they ended up like blaming somebody else for hacking the network. Somebody with a name that starts with an A who was like foreign. Because I said, "Who set up your network, Lynn?" I asked her who set up her network because that's who I would look at. Because she claimed she didn't know how to do it. She didn't even know how to fucking turn her device off silent. I mean, come on. You have an iPhone for years, and multiple times she would call me and ask me if I could come help her with her phone. She couldn't get her calls. Her phone would not ring. And you know what it was? Her silent switch was turned on. So I would show her. I'd say, "See this little switch? Yeah, turn it off." It accidentally gets turned on sometimes when you put it in and out of your purse or your pocket. Well, this would happen about 3 or 4 different times. To the point where there's no way in hell I believed that she actually didn't know how to do this. She would just use it as an excuse to get me, I don't know, out of my apartment, or to get me within range of her so that they could, if I'm sitting there, where they can observe me messing with her phone, well, then they know that they could then do what they needed to do with my phone while I'm distracted looking at her phone, There was another time where Lynn came out and she was getting very, very uncomfortably close to me for some reason. It was weird. I was very taken back by it. It was just very uncomfortable. She kept trying to like come up against me, you know what I mean? And it didn't make any sense at all. Of course the door's locked. Really? Why the fuck would you do that? So, it didn't make any sense at all. So I know now what was going on. She's just naive. And Jimmy Grabowski probably told her, gave her a device and said, "No, you got to make sure that you're close enough to his device, probably using some kind of NFC technology or something to do whatever with my device." I don't know. I did notice there was a couple passes that were put on my phone, like for the money pay or whatever. I never used it at all, ever. There was no reason where the setting should have been on, or there should have been any saved passes on my device, right? But there was. So all kinds of shit. I mean, I could go on for days about all the shit that I found out and noticed about my device. And just by asking the right questions, I determined who was involved. So, I mean, I can name them with confidence, not mistaken, with confidence of who for sure was involved. Maybe not fully, but they were knowingly participating in it. And I would put them on notice and let them know that whatever's going on, they're being used. I even left Lynn a note under her door, pleading with her to not to get wrapped up in this, because despite whatever she's being told, whatever they're getting her to do is against the law. And when I did that to her, shut up, Mocha. When I did that for her, I left the note anonymous, so she didn't know who left it. I didn't think I needed it to, sign my name, but I told her I didn't feel like she deserved to get in trouble for them using her, as a pawn to hack my device, So I said, whatever they tell you to do, just go along with it, you can just tell them yes, but then don't do what they need you to do, because, they're not going to leave you alone. They're not going to let you say no. They're going to manipulate you and bug you and pressure you, peer pressure you into doing what they want. Jimmy Gaboski would always go over to the apartment and talk to Dottie and Lynn at the same time. And sorry, but I think those were the little meetings where they would get together and get on the same page of what they had to do, to target me and shit like that. So this all came about because, like I said, I just was walking, pulled out my phone, and I saw 10-2. It's been years, and that 10-2 is still being used. I'm not the only person that's getting their device hacked, and these people are monitoring, what people are doing on their cell phone without their knowledge or permission, without the legal, the legality to do it. They're illegally surveilling people and accessing their device, and when they do that, they can access your camera, your microphone. You would never even know it. They can delete shit off your phone. They can, and I would assume they can do anything you can do, they can do without you even seeing it or knowing it. So if they want to put a bunch of porn on your phone, they could probably do that, So I suggest anybody who watches this, if you're from Patton and you don't know, if you're not in the know and you don't know exactly what's going on, I suggest you take a look at your own device. Look into what I'm saying, because they're not just going to do it to me and that's it. They want everybody's data. They want to know everything. These people they're addicts, okay? They're addicted. And when somebody's addicted, they can't help it. They have the ability to take everybody's data and hack everybody's devices. They can't stop themselves. When they have the ability to do this, and they have devices strategically placed around town that are like little stingrays, right? Little IMSI catchers, right? They're IMSI catchers, or they're cell site simulators, they call them. They have different names, but basically it acts as either a fake access point for Wi-Fi or a fake cell phone tower. It pretends like it's the cell phone tower or the access point, and it's like a man in the middle. It hijacks anything coming or going to your device, and it can then see it and have access to block it, or manipulate it in the process. The man in the middle can do anything. They can completely control the flow of information. It's whoever controls the final node, right, controls the game. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's the internet service provider who should be responsible for this shit. They should be responsible for making sure that people can't do this, right? But I hate to say it, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And Xfinity they're in the business of making money. So when somebody like this has the opportunity and access to everybody's data, that means that they have the opportunity and access to a pile of money. And the idea that they can do this without anybody knowing. So what? It's harmless. They can just take everybody's data, sell it, nobody will ever know. Who are they hurting, right? Right? I'm sure that's how they look at it. Because they're helping the authorities to fight crime, right? Meanwhile, they're committing crime to do it, violating everybody's privacy, violating their constitutional rights, and committing atrocities and human rights violations on top of this, based on the information that they gather. They're using that against people. It's sick when somebody, somebody basically approaches you or befriends you and gathers information on you just so they can turn around and use it against you. That's pretty fucked up, it ain't right. Not at all, because they're deceiving you. And whenever they do it to you, and the result ends with you, losing money, property, any kind of monetary loss, well, then it's theft by deception, isn't it? Because they're gaining money, you're losing money, they're, basically stealing from you by deceiving you. They're not gaining it. They're getting paid somehow. So they're getting monetary gain, and that's their intent. And it relies on you losing money. It has to come from somewhere, right? So this is theft by deception. It's fraud. There's so many different statutes that can be violated when you look into it. And the illegal use of a communication device, right? It's just, I haven't even looked into it, and that's just off the top of my head. That would land somebody in jail for quite a long time, probably federal prison too. And it just opens up the door to all these other crimes that they would then be implicated of. So it's like a gateway crime, right? And these people are addicted, They can't help not spy on somebody, it's voyeurism. When somebody watches somebody that doesn't know they're being watched, they get a thrill out of it. They can't help themselves. When they have that ability at their fingertips to do this, they can't help it. They're sick. They're addicted. So they literally don't have the willpower to say, no, I don't care what they're doing. It's not right. I should mind my own business. No, they can't do that. They can't do that. Because they got a taste of it, and their lives are so boring and miserable and pathetic that they need that rush and that thrill of watching somebody that doesn't know they're being watched, right? Look, like the phone's sitting there calling out to them, saying, let's spy on them, let's see what they're doing. Nobody will know we're doing it. Come on, it's harmless, right? Let's see if we can catch a glimpse of them getting in the shower, or let's see if we can catch a glimpse of them doing something they're not supposed to be doing, or telling a secret, right? Let's see if we can listen in and get some juicy stuff, right? Think about it. It's very alluring, right? That's why this shit's on the fucking dark web. And there's people who make money off of it, right? It's like secret soap operas, secret reality TV soap operas. You know what I'm saying? So then they get to interact, right? Like, kind of like one of those choose your adventure books, where you choose a decision at the end of the page, and it determines what story you're going to get, and you get to interact with the story. So they fuck with people's lives in real life. They do different things to cause things to happen, and they get a thrill out of that. They can sit back and be proud and say, "Oh, I made that happen," I'm so smart that I that I did these little things and caused all this to happen, and I planned it all. I'm so brilliant, you know? Fucking weirdos, right? They don't realize that anybody could do this to anybody if they had access to that fucking information that is meant to be private and secret, you know, and that people don't even know is being stolen from them, you know? It's fucking so wrong and sick and fucked up. But like I said, I can't unsee what I've seen, and I can't unknow what I know. So I can't sit here and say, maybe it's not happening. Maybe I'm just overreacting, and maybe there's some other explanation. I can't do that because I know that that's not the case, you know? I can't do that. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night or look myself in the mirror knowing that I have the ability, right, to speak out, the opportunity to speak out, and didn't do it. Well, then I'm just part of the problem. I'm the problem, you know? When you pass up an opportunity to make a difference and say something when you observe something happening that you know is not right, you're doing it then. You're just as fucking guilty. And if you're not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. You can't play dumb anymore and say, well, I just pretend I didn't see anything. I just shut my mouth and play dumb, and nobody will ever know, right? Nobody will ever know. I'll just reap the benefits, and when it's convenient for me, you know, laws for thee and not for me, or whatever, however that goes. Oh, hey, there's a kitty cat. Hi, kitty. Oh, so you guys are getting along. That's good. I thought that my dog would eat that cat. Get down, Lola. I think she just saw it. I don't think she knew it was up there. Get down. No. Go. Leave the kitty alone. Go lay down. Lola, stop it. No. Go lay down. Leave that kitty alone. I'm going to beat your ass. Do you want some chicken? Hey, shut up. Do you want some chicken? All right. Be good or be good at it.